Phantasy Star 2. This is a game that I've been playing since I can remember. This is the first JRPG it's either this or the Seventh Saga, to be honest. That was the first JRPG I ever played. I don't know which is the first, honestly, just because I was so young and I remember them both simultaneously at the same time. I first played these games at my aunt's house, and I attribute a lot of my gaming love to my aunt because she introduced me to a lot of games and a lot of franchises that I love to this day. So, Phantasy Star 2, released back in 1989, I was 4. Okay, I was 4 years old when this game came out. I definitely did not play this at 4 years old. At 4 years old, I was still playing Mario Brothers. But this is definitely one of these games that has been haunting me for most of my life because I've never been able to beat it. It's not an easy game to play. It is very difficult. It is very long and drawn out because the way the maps are designed, and if you're playing it these days, it's a little bit easier because you can find the maps online, but back then, if you didn't have some sort of guide, these maps, these dungeons were brutal to play through. And honestly, in Phantasy Star 2, I can see a lot of influences that passed on into newer games from this game. Like, it's, no secret. I'm not going to spoil anything about Final Fantasy 7 because everybody knows what happens in Final Fantasy 7, but the death of Aeris was not the first time that a main character was killed. Phantasy Star 2 beat them to that almost a decade prior. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. And the way that this story is told and the way everything unfolds, it's very interesting to see because this is the type of storytelling that you would see in more modern type of games. Like, you don't expect this from a Sega Genesis game in 1989. The gameplay is dated for sure. It's not the greatest thing, and it is turn-based, but you have to input commands before you can go ahead and put everybody to fight, right? So you have to input your strategy beforehand. It's not like modern turn-based RPGs, or hell, even turn-based RPGs that are not modern turn-based RPGs, where you can go ahead and just click on whatever thing that you're going to input for that character and they execute it. No, this one you have to go ahead and select what you're going to do with the strategy and then execute it with fight. This game is very, very grindy. I mean, I guess that's even an understatement because the grind that is in this game is really a lot of it to do with just grinding money to be able to buy the items to upgrade your characters. Because, yeah, I mean, you're going to grind for levels, but the biggest influence is going to be the gear that you have on your characters. And my God, the grind is real. And honestly, I wouldn't even say that this game would be good for casual RPG or JRPG players. This is a game that if you're going to play it these days, you have to want to play this game. You have to really want to play this game. But I will say the payoff is worth it when you get to that ending. Because, man, that ending is something that, honestly, I would love to see them remake this game just to see this ending play out in real time. Because the fact that it is a Sega Genesis game, they're not going to do flashy visuals or anything like that. Everything's going to be told in a kind of like comic book style stills image version with text dialogue, and you have to kind of put it to your imagination at that point as to what's going on. And honestly, most of the story, it starts to reveal itself towards the last quarter of the game or last third of the game, the final act. That's where you get most of the story going on in this game and what is happening within the world of Phantasy Star 2. It's very, I dare I say, anime-esque, but just the way that it's told. It's not that it's a lighthearted story by any means, because you have things of death, you have things of grief, but it's one of those stories that you have an Act 1, an Act 2, and Act 3, but Act 3 has most of the story. It's not like the actual premise to begin with was in the beginning of the game, because it's not. It gives you a premise to start off, but the premise doesn't really change or give you the full context of everything until that final act and the final moments of the game after you defeat the final boss. It is very, very well done storytelling that surprised me really when I got to it, when I finally beat this game for the first time, which happened this year. You know, like I played this game when I was little, and now I'm 38, and I finally beat this game, and it was just so cathartic to beat this game for the first time that I don't I shed some tears, but not because like it was a sad ending. I think it was more so like I shed tears because the young version of me was like, you actually beat this game that I've never been able to beat before, and it just like made the younger version of me extremely happy to finish this game. Never would I've thought that a Sega Genesis game or Sega Genesis RPG such as this would elicit this kind of emotion from me, but here we are. And honestly, like I can't really say I would recommend anybody to play it these days, just because it's not an easy play. It is a very difficult, drawn out game, and the mechanics are not the greatest. The way the characters come in, they just like, you reach a certain point in the game, you go back to your home, and then all of a sudden you have a new character because they're knocking on your door, and then they just join you. They don't really have like backstory or nothing. They just knock on the door and we're here. We're gonna help you because we have to. It's a very weird mechanic. One mechanic in the game that I really like is like there's a character that comes in that she steals items from shops, and if you just go over and over again to the shop, she will eventually leave your party because she stole something, and she'll be back at your house, and she'll have items that she stole. And some of these items are like overpowered healing items. They are resurrection items, stuff that you can't really find or get throughout the game other than her stealing. Like, this is the only way for you to actually get some of these items properly at a, you know, like to fill up your inventory, which you have a limited inventory, by the way. Each character can hold a certain amount of inventory items in your party, and that's your inventory space. It's not like an inventory space that you would find in like Final Fantasy games where it's almost like an unlimited list, or it's seemingly unlimited list. In this version, or in this type of RPG, it's your inventory is limited to your characters, and once they reach the maximum that they can hold, that's it. So I found myself constantly like stealing over and over again to get these items, so that way I can have each one of my characters carry these items, which would end up making my playthrough a lot easier, because these enemies in this game, these just regular mobs, can kill you really quickly, and then you find yourself going back and forth, resurrecting or cloning. It's actually not resurrecting, you're cloning your characters, which is a whole nother, like, just what is going on here. Are you really like, is it really the same person if they're cloned? But I guess in this universe they are. You're cloned, and that's how you come back. But you can't clone the character that died, because that character is permanently dead. There's no way to clone them. They try to, but you can't. And so it's interesting, you know, sci-fi stuff. Why not? But honestly, like, I had so much fun playing through this as an adult that I just don't know how I can follow up with this other than to just like play a different RPG from my childhood. I can't really give this a rating either, because it's such an old game, and I mentioned before that I just can't really recommend somebody unless you're like a diehard jrpg fan and you really want to play this game. Like, I can't, somebody comes up to me asking me, oh, should I play this game? I'm gonna be like, probably not, unless you love old school jrpgs, because it is very difficult to play through this game. The characters, I can't really say like I love these characters. There's not really much to these characters except for the main character, and that's okay, I guess. The story isn't really about the characters. The story's more about the world that they're in, and that's okay. Overall, like, again, I had a good time playing it. I will never play this game again now that I finally beat it. I have no reason to play it again. I've tried beating this game over and over again throughout my lifetime, and for one reason or another, I just couldn't do it. But now I finally did it, and I'm happy. I feel happy that I accomplished something. Maybe that's the whole point of playing the game anyways. But thank you for listening to my rambling. Thank you for listening to me talk about this game that I've been playing since I've been really little. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.